Hi, today we're going to continue our discussion of theories and talk more specifically about the order perspective. Today we're going to be dealing with how do order theories explain society, and how does Emile Durkheim, an order theorist, explain social stability. So those are the two main questions for today. Last time we talked a bit about the historical background of social theories. In other words, what were the kind of historical changes that were going on in society such that it caused people to ask questions about the nature of society generally in the first place. So today we're going to be going into more detail on one of those thinkers, Emile Durkheim. But before we jump right into that, I want you to think back for a minute that question I asked you at the very first part of the lecture last time, to think about some event or place you were at where there was relative calm and order in this setting. It's surprisingly so. I said think about a concert or a spring break or something like that. Well, if you can look back at your notes that you took about what you thought maintained order in that situation, this time we're going to be look through your list and see which one of those theories fit best with an order perspective. Now, if you thought about things like a shared set of values, people were there for a common goal, and that's what maintained order, you were actually coming from an order perspective. So let me just briefly I flipped to the wrong slide here, so that explains the look of shock on my face in case you saw that. Let's just briefly look at this slide and we'll see that the order perspective talks about the glue that holds society together is consensus. Basically, it's the idea that cohesion, cooperation, shared values are forces for integration, that the division of labor, remember we talked about that in the discussion on culture, the division of labor produces consensus through interdependence, shared set of values because we depend on each other, and that social change is gradual, adjustive, and reforming. So basically, those are the tenets of the order perspective. But in order to really get you to understand what this is all about, I want to talk for a moment about the basic theorists, the basic ideas of Emile Durkheim, who is one of the most well-known thinkers who came from what's called the order perspective. Emile Durkheim was a French social theorist who wrote in the late 1800s. He was obviously reacting to a lot of the unrest and crisis that was happening during the time that he was living. The Franco-Prussian War, the French revolutions were going on, and he too was trying to figure out what is it that's going on in society, why is there so much turmoil, how can we understand this? He was also writing his PhD dissertation and wanted to approach the issue of social unrest and social stability from a scientific perspective. At the time he was writing, biologists had just discovered the cell, and he said, aha, maybe I can take the same metaphor of the cell and use that to understand what's going on in the social world. So, he came on and said that perhaps we ought to look at society kind of like an organism. In other words, human beings, we look alike, we act alike, we can be considered the basic cells of society. But society is much more than that. The division of labor means that we have arms, legs, organs. In other words, individual cells make up the arms of society, which could be, the construction industry, for example, or the brain of society could be the academic institutions. That the society is really broken down into body parts, and then cells actually make up these. Finally, we ought to think of the body itself as our culture itself as an organism. In other words, how we can understand society as a whole is that as a body with interdependent parts that are making up pieces that look different than the individual pieces. In other words, human beings all basically look the same, but we function in very different ways in society, and we depend on each other in very different ways, and that collectively sort of creates our sense of culture. The other important element of Durkheim's thinking is that it's this symbolic culture that binds us together. That the body as a whole, what integrates culture and diverse groups of people into one group is our symbolic culture. The division of labor creates a sense of solidarity or consensus that exists above and beyond individual people. So we are all cells. We make up the arms and legs of society, and one thing that we share with each other is this notion of symbolic culture. I like to think of it as a bunch of little people down at the bottom, but we create and think together in ways that creates above us a set of ideas that we call our symbolic culture. We all have beliefs and thoughts and values, but collectively we create those, and that becomes our symbolic culture. The important part about that is that for Durkheim, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. That is, society is more than just each individual's, but we collectively, through our shared set of values, create something that then creates back against us. Perhaps this will make a little bit more sense when we talk about Durkheim's notion of social change. Now, obviously he was writing at a time when things were going through a lot of turmoil, when traditional societies were falling apart, values and morals weren't the same as they used to be. He said that these traditional societies are different than the kind of societies we are now. That we have, in the old days, we had traditional societies that were based on a simple division of labor. That is, people did the same things. Everybody could create could make what they needed to make in order to have society operate. Everybody knew how to grow food. Everybody knew how to make their own clothing, that sort of things. People were similar and shared the set of values, and the bonds of society were really strong. Because we did the same things, people were similar, and people shared the same set of values. He postulated that the key element of this is that in traditional societies, the nature of solidarity was mechanical. And he gave this a name called mechanical solidarity. That is, mechanical solidarity is based on a simple division of labor. People do similar things. People are similar to each other. People share the same values. And solidarity, that is culture for him, solidarity is based on shared sentiments. People are the same, do the same things, and therefore think the same ways, have the same set of values. Well, times have changed. We have modern society now where there's a more complex division of labor. And again, what was key to what Durkheim was looking at was the nature of division of labor and the nature of solidarity or consensus. He argues that modern society has a complex division of labor. So people aren't doing the same things. People are doing different things. We've got people over here sorting fruit on the one hand, but they don't know anything about the people who are over here building homes. What is it that can bring this society together? What prevents that from breaking on to complete chaos? Well, he argued that, don't worry, we're not going to break into complete chaos. Society is changing, but the nature of the division of labor is changing and the nature of solidarity is changing. And he said what we are doing is undergoing a transformation from mechanical solidarity to organic solidarity. Organic solidarity is a solidarity that is based on a more complex division of labor. People are specialized in their tasks and people are different, but people share a set of values because they depend on each other. In other words, people are coming from different locations, thinking different things, but we still rely on each other very much. So the social bonds that hold us together are based on interdependence, and that's a really key word. Whereas solidarity in traditional mechanical societies was based on doing the same thing, similarity, solidarity in organic, complex societies is based on interdependence. For Durkheim then, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. The division of labor breeds consensus, because even though we're undergoing this transformation and social change from a traditional to an organic kind of society, what's important is that solidarity will continue. We're just going to change from a mechanical kind of solidarity to an organic solidarity. Again, Durkheim is looking at the nature of consensus, what bonds us together, a shared set of social values that together for all people creates our collective consciousness or our symbolic culture. Okay, if just take notes on this stuff, and if it doesn't make any sense, it should make sense when we start to contrast this to the conflict theory, which is what we're going to talk about next time.
If you are interested in any other UNLV distance education course, please call us at 702-895-0334.